Welcome back. I'm playing Warhammer 40,000 Battlesector, and we'll get started on our next multiplayer matchup. We are playing as the Tau forces, and we're going to be going against the Blood Angels. We're going to be playing a strategic map in the city. It's a 2,000 army size, 8-turn limit with an 88-point target. That's pretty standard for most of the strategic command online matches here. Now, I want to try to use my rockets, because my thought is that if I use the crisis suits, I should be able to take cover behind the buildings. I should have the indirect fire, and I brought a broadside as well, so I can hopefully snipe down any vehicles or do other damage. The cadre should give them a 100% chance to hit, so even if they're a little bit out of position, I have the commander, so I can hopefully do some flame and increase the bonuses to my other guys. I have the commander being the ethereal. Now, I did bring a breacher. It says that it's got a range of 8 for the marker lights, but I'm not sure that's actually how it works. I think that's just kind of a bug, because I think how the marker lights work, now that I've done a few games with the Tau, it's whatever the range of your weapon is what your marker lights are, so I think it's going to cap out at 2 or 3, but we'll try it out. We've got the crisis suits with their missile launchers. One's got a flamer, the other one's got a fusion blaster, and I've also got multiple crisis suits here to try to jump down and snipe any sort of vehicles he may have or his commanders. But my hope is that most players, as you're aware, when they're playing with Space Marines, go assault, jump, infantry, heavy. So hopefully by doing this, I should be able to get line of sight and then just use all those indirect missiles. Because what I have to do with this kind of build, since I don't have very many units, is I have to kill the sanguinary guards, which almost every player is going to use as Space Marines. And then if he's got any assault marines, yeah, see, he's got some right here. Assault marines in the open, then it's 2 attacks, and so I can take out a couple of those every turn. Because it'll be 2 attacks with the, it takes 2 attacks with the missiles to drop one, or if I keep them in the open, yeah, see, he's got 2 sanguinary guard back there as well. So what I'm going to do is just try to get these guys into position, so hopefully when he counter initiates or tries to take that spot, I can then be into range to start sniping these guys out, and then I can use my stealth suits to take other guys. Now, I did overextend myself a little bit here, because the other thing you got to be careful with the assault marines is not only can they do the melee attacks, but they do have crack grenades, and that will allow them to do good damage against the your forces. Now, unfortunately, my broadside is still too far away, so he can't land attacks onto the sanguinary guard, but you gotta be, most players are also going to have a sanguinary priest, so what you don't want to do is waste missile attacks and then not get the kill, otherwise he's just going to bring his forces up and heal. Now I'm going to jump over here. My hope is that by being here, I'm going to be far enough where he's not going to have hell blasters into range yet. He may have them down on the open, but I don't think he can get hell blasters into range in that mid-city to get attacks off, but we'll see if that's correct or not.
On your word.
Another thing I see a lot of players do is use a lot of Inceptors on here.
Wherever I am needed.
So we'll kind of bring the ethereal over here, try to get him into position to do more stuff in case he has terminators, which some players like to do on this map. We'll turn those guys around, and then what I can do is I can send one cadre to the right and maybe send one cadre to the left, because the other option is if we get to launch those missiles onto the basic assault marines, I think the cadre with his 2 attacks should maybe even be able to take most of those units out and then allow our stealth suits to get the kill otherwise.
Establishing fire zone.
Yeah, my suspicion was correct. So the marker light, even though it says provided with that 8 tiles, that's just of the 8 tiles of your unit, but that's not the range of the marker lights. I was pretty sure that was the case, but I wasn't 100% sure. So next time I'll be into range to launch these missiles off, so this should work out pretty well for us. And then this one can go all the way over to here. So yeah, everybody should be into range, because I doubt he's going to just camp out at that spot here. So it's 5 to 5. Yep, so now they're going to be in range.
Scanner picking up movement.
Maybe he is going to camp out.
Tracking
Usually
potential
players are a
targets.
little more aggressive than this. So yeah, as expected, he's going with the heavy assault infantry. I think if the one thing you can do with the crisis suits is if you go heavy flamer against Space Marines, then you can use your missiles. Once your missiles are used up, then you can use their jump packs and then get flame attacks, and you can really kill a lot of the Space Marines that way. But the bad thing about that strategy is if they're not going mass infantry, then you've got worthless units, and the Space Marines have so much armor that it takes a couple flame attacks to
Tracking
wipe out a
potential
squad.
targets.
So it's kind of mixed movements, but you know, these guys with the bolters aren't going to do a ton of damage against me, so it's not the end of the world.
Visual range.
Now, I am surprised he's not counter-engaging me here. So now the part that's kind of weird is I'm looking at my missile range, and now I'm starting to realize that buildings are actually partially blocking my ability to land to get the missiles. I thought it was all indirect fire, but because when I was looking at the other unit there, I was getting missile range all the way out there, like here.
Armored support.
But I think it's just because I'm on the corner of the building. But then if you look at the other missile range, now I can't get attacks on these guys.
How can I
So
assist?
this is an absolute disaster, because the whole point of this build is to be able to take out... Yeah, see, look, I can't even reach there because I'm getting obstructed. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these crisis suits out and leave them out into the open here. Which isn't the end of the world with those other units here. But they'll do some damage, especially if they use their special ability. But I'm getting myself overextended here in ways that I really don't want to. Now I especially don't want to be here now, because now he's got 2 Hellblasters back there too. And those guys for sure will screw my crisis suits. And now my stealth suits are taking a ton of hit. Oh shit, he's got another one back there too. Those ones are with the heavy incinerators too.
On your word.
Yeah, so now I'm in a really bad position. So now I've wasted attacks where I'm not going to get into position with those missiles, and I've got all my guys left out in the open to Hellblasters. I can move these guys up.
Artillery standing by.
I can snipe from afar,
Repositioning.
but because I moved him, now he's stuck in the open here. So it's like, I guess we'll just snipe a Hellblaster model here, but this is
Armored support.
a
Ready.
big mistake here. So now what I'm trying to decide is, do I engage the Assault Marines or not? Now I wasn't sure if, with that stealth field being 1, if on his turn my guy is still going to be stealth, or I'm going to lose it at the end of this turn. So I was debating whether I wanted to advance and start attacking those Assault Marines, but I wasn't sure that they were going to be able to escape, and I wasn't sure they wouldn't get counter jumped if I left them out in the open there. So I end up pulling those guys back. It's like, if I move you up, you're going to trigger all that Overwatch. I can stealth you.
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, the marker lights, the whole point of bringing some breachers was to maybe help with some marker lights and get some guaranteed attacks with that broadside as well with their missile,
To
but
the front line.
clearly that's not going to happen now that I know it's only got a range
Ready
of
for
2.
orders. Removing
And
targets.
it's like, well, we might as well just try to shoot whatever we can, so maybe...
With pride.
But yeah, this is
Nothing shall
bad. So
stand
this
against
is
us.
a huge disaster. It's like, well, if he advances on everybody, maybe I can jump in there with my
Moving to
commander.
position. Ready for orders. As you wish.
But now, it's like, so this guy being behind that barrier here,
Armored support.
that
Ready.
counts as still having line of sight, so then he gets
Confirmed.
attacks. So if you're going to do this, you could potentially move them around, but see that build, if it's a building that's 2 squares up, I don't know a better way of saying that, but then it's going to block your range of sight. But if you're in the open space in the middle there, or behind this one with the destructible barrier, then you technically have line of sight, so then you can still get shots off. So if you're going to try this strategy, those are kind of your positions you need to be. Otherwise, on these other spots, you're going to be blocked. So this is a disaster now, because my commander's no longer over there giving them accuracy and range damage boosts, which do help the missiles. I've got these freaking stealth suits that are just kind of hanging over here, so we'll just might as well get some shots. We'll stealth you, try to bring you back here. I've got the crisis suits just hanging out here with their dick in the wind. Probably going to get themselves killed next turn. I've got these crisis suits that can't do shit because they're getting their line of sight blocked.
Armored support, ready.
So this is just a disaster.
Moving.
Because that's over a third of my force points here that now have not gotten an attack. Well, even more than a third. It's probably half because of, you know, my cadres aren't getting attacks, my commander's not getting attacks, so this is rapidly falling apart on us here. And now if I pull those guys back, it's like, okay, so I can still get some decent line of sight keeping them here. But if I move them any closer to the building and I'm not in that other position, then that's not going to work well for us. So it's like, shit. But yeah.
Nothing shall stand against us.
But now we know for the future, I guess. So learn from my mistakes. This is a huge, unmitigated disaster here. And it's like, well, if we bring the cadres over this way, maybe I can snipe some of those assault marines if he starts moving down. Because my hope is still that I can get them close enough. We're slightly ahead in the points, but this is not going to continue. So obviously he's just running up with these guys. He's using their abilities so he can do some damage to the crisis suits. But I find that the build he's doing right now is pretty commonly used with the Space Marines. So if you are going to do a crisis suit build, I think if you go with flamers, that's going to be a good way to go. And especially if you combine it with the missiles here. But yeah, now he prudently hit him behind there, so then he should be able to throw some crack grenades the following turn. So I still need to be able to kill that guy because he can still damage me with one unit. And with the strategic command, he can still do things. Now the part I'm not sure about is how did he end up unstealthing me here? Because I don't see that he moved those Inceptors up one to be able to get me there, so I'm not sure how he uncovered the stealth without triggering some overwatches. Yeah, see, he's got the Death Company back here. He's got a commander, or a lieutenant, I should say.
Scanner, picking up movement.
Yep, he's definitely got a Sanguinary Priest. It would make no sense not to bring a Sanguinary Priest. Yep. And that is his HQ commander.
Tracking potential targets.
He's buffing their damage, because that lasts a couple turns, then he used the lieutenant's abilities to increase momentum stacks. Which makes perfect sense, because then if he uses the Chalice on the Sanguinary Guards and they get some kills, then they'll get a second attack and then potentially a third attack if they trigger their special ability.
Armor holding. Taking hits. Armor holding. Taking hits.
Alright, so at this point in time I'm getting totally tilted on the situation. It's like, alright, I'm getting frustrated, let's use our missiles. I can still maybe salvage this. I got 80% chance to hit, but then my missiles freaking hit the barrier.
Armored support, ready.
So I'm like, fuck. Now I'm probably not going to be able to get the attacks. And my commander's so far away that I'm not getting the bonuses that I thought I was. So it's like, okay, now I've done that, but now with the model being destroyed on the other side, I don't think I'm going to have enough damage Yeah. So now it's like, okay, the sanguinary guards aren't dead, so I just wasted all those attacks. I've got these guys in vulnerable positions. I'm going to get counter jumped. I can't just fall back any further because now I'm suffering enough strategic point losses with it being 4-1 that I'm going to end up losing on that. So I'm like, let's just jump over here and let's take out these Hellblasters.
We're taking fire.
But this whole strategy was banking on me being able to take out some of those Assault Marines. Because the rest of these guys I can kind of bait down and get kills, and then the interceptors or the bolter guys, whatever they're called, I always get them confused with the other jump infantry. They don't do enough damage to most of the other forces for it to make a ton of sense to... Yeah, intercessors, as I thought. To be able to do everything, but now I've got this situation where it's like, okay, well, what am I going to do? Because he's still got all of his Sanguinary Guard. He's going to be able to heal the Sanguinary Guard. And they've got the X-Carnine axes, so they're going to do shit tons of damage. So my commander is now going to be most likely royally screwed. I can't camouflage you, unfortunately.
Stealth team, reporting in.
I am here.
And then the other thing is I forgot to use my ethereal abilities. So it's like, oh my god, so I can't even take advantage of the bonus health or the evasion to try to keep you alive. Not that you would have survived anyways. Because even if he misses attacks, he can whip the crack grenades on there, and those always hit his mind. So now I'm just like, well, let's just try to take some of these models out. I'll try to pull you back a little bit to keep you alive. If nothing else, if he comes after you, maybe we can bait him a little bit. But probably not going to work too great.
Ready for orders.
And then I was like, well,
Armored support, ready.
what else can I do here? It's like, I guess we'll just kind of pull back a little bit and try to take out his assault infantry, and then I can just try to brute force down
Affirmative.
all of his intercessors, but that's
What
probably
troubles you?
not going to work. I'll bring the ethereal over here
Your
to start
friendly
doing these
outside
buffs,
review the
but
battlefield.
again, I'm way behind the 8 ball on that one right now. I was like, well, maybe I can just use the missiles here to try to get some attacks. We can use your stealth suit to pull you back, try to keep you
Armored
alive.
support, ready.
I could bring the cadre over and get some shots, but I think it's pretty much a lost cause over here. Because he's still got 2, 3, a death company, 2 sanguinary guards. So I bring this guy over here thinking, well, maybe I can at least start sniping down some of his units, and maybe he'll waste his heals on those other units. And not the sanguinary guard, but there's still 4 models, so we only killed 1. I missed the attack, and then I realized, like, what the hell am I doing? I have cadres here to guarantee attacks, and I didn't do it. So at this point in time, I was like getting so pissed off that I'm not even thinking logically anymore. And it's like, well, do I run them down to throw down that photon grenade? It sticks around for a couple turns, but then they're obviously going to get killed. So it's like, well, let's not do that. So my only hope here is that maybe I'll do some charge attacks with all those jump infantry, and I can suppress them, and then they'll be stuck out in the open. But at this point in time, my fate is pretty much sealed due to my stupidity.
What do you need?
And the breachers are going to be susceptible to getting attacked by all those intercessors. So it's like, well, where can I put these guys to try to keep them a little bit protected? And I put him over here, the thought being that maybe he'll get cocky and he'll maybe jump into my breachers and allow us to do some good damage against all those assault marines. And then I had forgotten that I even had that other freaking cadre over here, so it was just like bad movements for sure. Yeah, so a lot of really sloppy plays here. So obviously he's running these guys over. He's gonna get some shots into those guys. He's jumping over there, gonna whip a crack grenade. And his thought is then he can start attacking the guys that I'm pulling away from, and it'll also allow him to start to get into position to capture that strategic point. Now I didn't really think of him using the intercessors here to soak up the overwatch, but that makes perfect sense. And then he's using this crack grenades to just start focusing down on the commander here. Makes perfect sense. Yep, goes for the heal for the Sanguinary Guard. He's starting to use their abilities. He's using his lieutenant to get other buffs. Now unfortunately we were not able to suppress those guys that are charging through here. But that's what's rough against fighting breachers with those assault marines is they've used their abilities, they've gotten increased damage, and now they're going to take increased range damage, and they weren't even able to kill a single model. Now he does use the lieutenant to boost up the accuracy, so now he did 150 some damage here. So now he'll 100% be able to get kills with his Sanguinary Guards here. So he's down. They're now ready to surge and get additional attacks. He's whipping grenades all over the place with frag grenades with his intercessors. He's like, well, I can just lock you down, get a bunch of model kills, get extra AP, so why not attack them? So that's obviously working out really well for him. Those guys are coming over here to keep focusing down on those other stealth suits here.
Ready for orders.
And now I've got everybody pretty much locked down, so this is a disaster, and the ones that are taken out are like my flamers. And I ended up hitting more obstacles, taking out additional missiles here, so I'm just like, oh my god, can I just not get a break on this thing? So it's like, alright, 90%. Can use you to just sit back and take out these Sanguinary Guard, but just unmitigated disaster here. See, that's what I was kind of hoping to do to the Assault Marines after we had landed a bunch of attacks with the missiles here, if they had still survived. We only have one command point here because
Ready for orders.
we're doing such a poor job capturing points and everything. So it's like, well, we'll just come down here and shoot into these assault squads. Shoot into these guys that are blocking you down.
What do you need?
Can't throw those photon grenades because they're at a range of 1.
Artillery standing by. Armored support ready.
So I'm like, well, let's just charge in here with the ethereal and maybe he can clean up an assault squad because they're facing the other direction, but it's not a rear attack, so because it's still at 90 degrees, he got his suppression attack. Now thankfully he's still able to get in here, but he's not able to clean up an assault squad. I wasn't sure how much damage he was going to do. I mean, it's not bad, but it wasn't as much as I thought. So it's like, well, let's just fire into there, and unfortunately all three of them focus fired on the same model, so it's like, well, let's just shoot them here, get the kill.
What troubles you?
And now I've got this broadside here that's not going to be able to hit shit that's worth taking, so the broadside is definitely a big mistake on this map. I thought maybe it would be viable and we could use those missiles, but it's just a little too difficult to get guys into vision, so definitely a bad decision on here. And I would argue that it was a bad decision with the crisis suits as well, especially knowing how all the missiles can hit obstacles and get their indirect line of sight affected. So definitely a really bad force selection for me. So learn from my mistakes here so you guys do not do the same thing here. But nice job to our opponent, who's clearly going to take the win from us at this point in time. We'll give the 100% chance to hit, but again, he's only going to be able to take one model off of something.
As you command.
So it's like, sure, kill one of those Death Company guys, overkill them, but
Yes.
there's not going to be a whole lot else for us to do here. But the intercessors will allow you to just sit down and capture points and stop them from getting other movements with his stealth suits, because they have trouble clearing out chaff with having those powerful fusion guns, which most players are going to do. So I do think that probably makes a lot of sense to just have the intercessors soak up Overwatch and camp out on strategic command points, using your assault marines to try to jump around, throw crack grenades down. I think definitely if you're going to play this map, you're probably going to want to do a combination of heavy breachers, possible maybe some pathfinders so you can get their ranged marker lights, but I think it's probably going to be even better if you end up doing like your stealth suits and your stealth mech, so then you can do the flamers. And if you are going to do crisis suits on this map, I think this would be a good one for giving them actually the flamers, assuming you're going to be fighting a heavy infantry force, so you can jump in, use the flamers, and it's hard for them to get kind of counter position here. But broadsides I don't think are a viable option on this map. I mean, I guess you could make an argument that you could plop them down on the right or the left side, but they're going to generally be left out in the open, and usually most infantry forces are down there unless there's vehicles charging you on those sides. I just think it's going to be too difficult to get their money's worth back out of them, even if you get a couple of those missile shots off. So I think broadsides on this map are definitely a no-go, and I think you can make a pretty solid argument that the cadres on this map were not very good either because of how long their range is. It's hard to get those attacks in, so I think definitely a heavy breacher, stealth suit. I suppose you could make an argument that maybe a Riptide would be good too, because they can do a lot of damage at low to medium range. They can take cover behind the buildings, and when guys do get attacks onto them, then they get the damage reduction as well. But I think hammerheads again would be very hard to utilize effectively on this map. Probably wouldn't want to do fire warriors, because again, if you have them on their low tier weapons, they don't tend to do enough damage, and if you have their high tier units, they have such long range that I think you're going to have difficulty. So I think that's what I would generally recommend. And then if you have a heavy assault infantry force, if you have a bunch of breachers, they got to jump into you, and you can almost wipe out a whole squad with each breacher attack that you have. And then the crack grenades, while they're going to be annoying, aren't going to do a ton of damage to the breachers. And then you do have to worry about the frag grenades and just regular attacks from the incessors, but if you kind of position them appropriately, you should be able to get some kills otherwise. So yeah, I think that's what I would recommend. But good job to our opponent. Definitely totally beat the pants off of us here, and we just got totally devastated. So learn from my mistakes, understand how the rockets, missile pods work with the crisis suits. Don't get tilted like I did. Make sure to always use your ethereals to stack up your buffs, especially if you are going to use the crisis suits or your commander to jump into heavily controlled enemy territories to do multiple flamer attacks, because then they can actually have some increased survivability. And you got to take out those damn sanguinary guards, because if they get to jump on your high value targets, it's just like game over, because they can do so much damage with those X-Carnine axes. They are meant to be a assassination squad and an anti-heavy vehicle or heavy armored squad, single units. They can shoot through anything, and then if they do end up getting taking out breachers or something else, then because they're going to get probably 3 to 4 model kills minimum, that's going to significantly increase their chance of getting the bonus attack damage to then attack something else that's around them, like the crisis suits like you saw here. So thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying these videos. If you are, please give my channel a like and subscribe. Encourage me to post more content for you. Have a great day.